So today I wanted to make a sci-fi blaster, and with that is going to come some work. So here is the visual effects plate that we will be working off of. Let's take frame 220, and we're going to export this frame as a still, and I'm just going to say 1020, 1020, let's see when our next explosion is going to be. She turns her gun, and then right there, 1039, let's say 1039 is our next one. And I'm just writing these down for reference later. We can always just view this sticky note. But I'm just going to go into here, and then we're going to, on this one frame, find a nice blue that we want. And let's go ahead and just paint this guy in. So I'm just going to hand paint this with my mouse. I understand hand painting is not as ideal as like an automated answer, but sometimes just being a little bit more creative with your painting here can get you a pretty cool looking shot. Look at this. So now this comes on frame 20. To save ourselves time though, because we really need to do that, let's use a frame hold here, and we'll just do a merge node with that, like just a roto. And let's find ourselves this section here. I'm going to roto out the blaster itself, and then just using a blur node, that'll just help us out a little bit. But let's pre-mult that, and now that's going to give us just our blaster that we can comp over top of anything that we need. Actually, I'm going to start trying to have better cleanup management here. So let's use a matte, and then instead of that, let's do that, and then there we go. Same thing, right? Same diff. Now we can control the amount of blur right here. Here though, I'm going to add in another merge node, and we're just going to set the keyframe to true on 1020, and then we're going to turn it off. And then for this right here, that's fine. Well, let's see. We'll turn that off. Go to frame 1039, and that's over here. And then we're just going to have it turn back on. I'm just going to have it turn off again and off again. So now on frame 1039, let's go add a new transform node in here. Thinking we'll set this to a keyframe of zeros here on 1020, but then on 1039 I'm going to need to merge this over top of our original footage again. So let's see, we're just going to mirror it and then align it over here with the blaster like that. So now just using that transform node, we can use that same paint effect that we did for both times. We're going to take our footage here, we'll just move this up. There's two things that we need to do to it real quick. We're first going to denoise our footage. So let's just drop in a denoiser, and we'll denoise it pretty high. But from the denoise, let's also add in a tracker. I mean, we can manually track this. I'm not opposed to that. I'm probably going to end up deleting this guy. Yeah, let's do that. Let's add in a new transform node, but this time we're going to set the keyframe to the center of the circle. So that's going to be frame 763, and then frame 625. And that'll just place it directly in the center. Now, if we want to flop things, it'll just flop on the center of where we're at. Let's add in another we'll go select our tracker up here, and then we're going to just output a match move. So let's go ahead and create that real quick. And that's going to go below our transform, because it'll flop first before it goes to the match move. And now, if we just check this back, we'll notice that disappears. But if we actually don't look at that merge node and we just follow this shot here, should just move with the whole gun, and this will allow us to have it fade in, fade out a lot easier. I'm gonna add in another merge node now. I deleted the other one. The reason why is because I want this to fade out. So I'm gonna set this to like a keyframe of 1, and then here it can just be completely off. And then that's gonna go all the way up to about here, and let's just say it's going to fade out. And then 1039, I think it should be back to full. And we'll just have it completely off, set keyframe again, and then have it fade out. With that being said, though, we need to add in the actual blaster effect above it. And then now if we drag this over into our comp, to be honest, we're going to just do something very similar to what we did a few weeks back. So output 709 here. First things first, we're going to offset this to work on the correct frame. So let's add in a time offset. And we're going to want this to at least be 1019, I'm thinking. And then we're going to want to have in an O-flow. So now we're going to take this O-flow, and we need to comp it into our shot here. Oh, right. And then, by the way, we're also going to want to add in a frame range, I think, to this thing. And then this is going to be set to 1000. So that way, if we remove this, this starts on 1021 like we wanted, but all of these blank frames are created before it, so that way it doesn't feel like we're rushing anything. Actually, and it should end on frame 1047, so let's just add that number in there as well. So starting on frame 1000, ending on frame 47. And this now is really good for us to comp into what we need. I'm going to add in a shuffle node now, and we're going to be shuffling in the values that we have here into its own separate layer. So go ahead and from our A input now, we're going to be taking the RGBA values, and we're going to then plug this directly into a new layer that we're going to create called Distortion. Let's call it Distortion. And we'll just do RGBA, that's totally fine. And then now, if we grab all of our RGBA from the A input here and drag that over, add in a transform node down here. We're going to want that to be lined up appropriately with where the gun is. So I'm just going to use a merge node to visualize this a little bit better. If we do that, we can grab our transform node here and we can place this where our gun is. So we're going to go to frame 1021 and we'll just place the explosion effect right where we want it. And we might even want this to happen a little bit faster later. Yeah, let's have it go a little bit faster. So on our O flow, we're going to want this to be, let's say, 12. Let's use our transform node here and then just place this a little more in front. Thinking we'll even want to rotate this around. Just feels more natural going that direction. Great. So now we have kind of this distortion effect that's happening here, but how do we use it? Let's go ahead and, since we already have this plugged in via our shuffle node here, we basically need to do the same thing we did a few weeks back on our Ghostbusters effect. I believe we were just using an iDistort, if I remember correctly. And then from that iDistort, we could select the channel of what we want. So instead of using all, we're going to use our distortion channel. And then if we go to our, we're on frame 1021, which should have this explosion effect going on it. If I then start to mess around with some of these settings here, should distort our image. Maybe all and then select distortion on this. Yes, there we go. And then now, when we create our effect here, it's only going to be distorting the areas in which our distortion effect is happening. I'm going to blur this a bit as well. I also think it doesn't hurt us to blur our actual effect that we have going on here. Oh yeah, I think that looks good. I was going to do it through a separate blur node, but actually that looks pretty nice. Let's see the amount of distortion we want on this thing. Could probably lessen it. I think that's good. We're going to use the same effect that we have here, but we're going to just time offset it because we want it to happen on frame 1039. So right now we have this time offset of 1019. We're just going to copy paste that. And then now we're going to place this on frame 1038, I think. Is probably the best way to do this. And then now, maybe 37. Yeah, frame 1037 should be good. And now we're just going to copy paste our O flow. We're going to copy paste our frame range. And then honestly, we could copy paste our transform because we're just going to be moving everything slightly. And then also our blur node. But this is going to be comped on top of our other image. So don't worry too much about that right now. I'm just going to use a merge node. Again, we're just doing this to visualize where we're placing this thing. But if we grab our transform node now, we can actually just move him over to this area. And I'm going to turn off the blur so that way we could see more of what we're doing here. Our O flow here should be starting on frame 1038. Need to go to the very beginning of it, and then our O flow, and then our frame range. And this should play it back here. So at frame 1, then we need our time offset to be 1036. And then, oh right, our O flow, that's what I did wrong. Our O flow needs to be a new O flow because the frame range is different. But we can change the output speed here to be 12, just like the other one was. And then we've got our same frame range, transform, and merge node. So now it should just play back how the other one did. So I'm just going to use our transform here to place this directly in front. And it just feels like it needs to be rotated this way. Okay, cool. So now we will re-enable our blur here. And then actually we're going to keep this merge node, but we're just going to merge these two on top of each other. So if we go do that real quick, so we should be able to see the first one, and then we should see the second one. And I'm going to use a plus operator to be able to do that. So you're going to go from frame 1020, you're going to see that one, and then on these frames here, you're going to see the second explosion. And then now using our shuffle node, we're just going to be plugging that directly into our merge node. So that way everything is kind of happening before. I'm thinking we'll even want it to distort a little bit more. I'm going to blur even a little bit more. Also thinking it might be fun to add in, let's see, let's go to add in a constant. Let's try this. Interestingly, we don't even have to have it that long. I just need the feathering here to be quite a bit. And then we'll pre-mult this. This is just going to have this effect here. Oh, right. And then we'll need this to be set to 2K 2048 by 1080. But now if we merge this on top of this, take this constant over here, and we can merge this effect over on top of it. I'm going to probably want this to blur as well. Let's just go ahead and add it on top of itself, like so. And now with our Roto here, we can have this just fade completely off. Make this overall smaller for the area in which the glow is emanating from. But now we can just lessen the amount of this. So I'm going to set this as like a keyframe here, and then we have it go out. And then here, it's just like a much more exaggerated version of it. And then probably back out again. So now again, we have our Roto here. We can just move it around to the other area in which we want it. We'll probably want to set a keyframe here, something like right here, potentially. So if we select our Bezier curve, we could just set a keyframe, and then that way it doesn't freak out. And then we're just moving everything over here by frame, let's say. Yeah, it starts here, so let's just select everything here, and then just grab it, rotate it around. And the frame before it, we'll just keep it keyframe set to 0. But on frame 1039, you know, we can start to bring in some light a little bit more. And let's see, frame 1040, more so. And this is a darker part of the image, so it's definitely going to be a lot more visible. Then by 1042, we'll just be completely out. Let's see, our blur right now is 200. If we set that to like a 400 even, I think that might look a little bit nicer. I'm going to set a keyframe for that because I like it on the first run, but not the second. So we'll just move that up slightly there. Then now the next layer on top of that's probably going to be some kind of sparks, I'm thinking. So let's go back to our wish list that we have here. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the output here to a 709. And then the next thing we're going to want is the time offset to be correct. So let's just really quickly change that to a 1019 here. And if we go view this, it should give us our spark effect that we have. And now all we need to do is just adjust the grade. We could probably just grab the white point and then move it more yellowish to make it blue. I think if we go something a little bit more blue like that, I can get behind that. And then now if we comp that on top of everything else here, we're going to go to this frame, 1020, and then we will just merge this on top of it. So we're using like a transform node or something like that. We can get our effect. So let's see, 1019, we want it in by 1019. I'm thinking, or not 1019, by 1021 we kind of want it in by. And then if we just plus this on top of everything, does give us more of a realistic kind of like reaction response. Now you'll notice that it's not moving with the camera, which actually kind of is a problem on these specific VFX shots right here, because I feel like it does need to move with the camera. Luckily the camera's not moving in 3D space, so all we have to do is track like a 2D area, and then we'll be able to do that. So I'm going to add in a new tracker node at the very top of our stack. And let's just find a spot that we can track in 2D. I'm thinking this dot right here is going to do us just nicely. It's in frame the entire time. It's high contrast and nothing crosses in front of it. So if we go ahead and add in a new tracker node here, let's go ahead and let's go to frame 1021 because that's the way frame we already have set as a keyframe. And then let's just set that as our main reference frame. Now if I move this tracker node all the way down here, and then I'm going to just increase this reference track layer so that way it knows to look for more things a little bit easier. And then if we go back to the beginning of it, as long as I'm watching this, it looks like it locks on pretty cleanly. And we're just going to go to the end of the whole sequence here. Looks like we have a nice camera track. So let's go to our tracker and then output a match move, hit create, and put that at the very bottom of that stack there. And now, if we play this back, our sparks should move with the camera. Might even take this, and an easier method is before these transforms, we just add in a merge node. And by this frame, we want them completely gone. So we'll set that as a keyframe. And then maybe we'll have them kind of fade out and then just completely off again. So now it's like the sparks are going to happen. Now, I think maybe we drag that out a little bit further. That might be a little too quick right now. We can go to the dope sheet here and then just drag some of this out a little bit further. Let's go ahead and save that. And then now, of course, on our next shot here, we need the same effect to happen. So we could pretty much take this whole thing and just duplicate it. Probably will, actually. And then go delete this, which is reference the same frame. We don't need to have a whole different new footage for this. And then let's see, we take this guy and let's just merge it again to see where we want that. We're gonna have this come in on frame 1035 maybe. And of course we're going to move our dope sheet here. And let's see. Now we adjust our frames here. So our sparks are for sure going off. And then let's grab this guy here and line that up a little bit better. Let's use this same merge node here, and we're just going to merge these on top of each other. And then we'll use a plus operator for that. So we should be able to get both still. So that one and that one up there. So booyah, booyah. 2 explosions. And then now we'll just move this merge down. And so now we should have both of our spark blasts happen on this shot. So we got a boom. So if I go ahead and just add in a glow node here, we'll just go ahead and start glowing this before it comes back to comp on top of everything. With this glow, we can target like specific areas of the tolerance. I'm thinking that we'll probably just want like a pretty small amount of tolerance for this guy. And then the brightness could probably be set to half of what it currently is. Whoops, not 5, 0.5. Because essentially we want to have it to be less bright. But with that, probably bringing down the saturation. I think in Nuke comp sometimes, if you adjust the saturation, it can adjust the amount of intensity that something has. And then of course our size can just be a little bit larger than what it currently is set to. But this glow here, what I like to do, I do the same thing at Hugo's desk. They have this pretty cool method of basically just saying, okay, let's take the effect only here, and then we're going to just merge it on top of our previous frame here. And then we're going to use this as a plus. And what that does is it adds like a little bit of glow to the outside of our image here. And we can actually multiply these on top of each other. So if I add like another glow in, and then I do something very similar to like what I just did. So again, we're just going to set this to like, I don't know. Let's just set it to another 0.5. And then the brightness, again, we can maybe increase it slightly. I might even make this slightly less. And then the saturation here, let's go ahead and then adjust that to be something like a... also probably the same as brightness here. And then the size here can be a lot smaller. And we'll go ahead and make that effect only again. And you can kind of see the difference between how much we're affecting by that tolerance level. And then if we add in another merge node, we're just going to be plussing that back on top of our sequence here. So just use another plus. And then now we kind of want to have like an overall massive glow that's happening. An easy way to do that I found is just adding in a blur node of like add like a 500 or something like that. And then if we merge that back on top of it, this time we're going to use another plus. And this time the mix can be set to quite a bit less. So we're just going to probably have something like that. We can also decrease the amount of glow that each individual one has here. So like if I decrease that to like a 0.4 or something like that for this specific glow that's happening, we can actually adjust the amount of mix that each individual glow is kind of contributing to the overall effect. So now if we go back to our thing here, we can control the amount of glow that our entire image is kind of having through that. I'm going to want the fade out on this second one here to be a little bit quicker. Let's bring that back 1 frame, and then let's see, 1, 2. That might be fine. It's still on there, but it's not living forever. Overall, I feel like I wish this was larger. Maybe take that out and then blur it. I'm thinking maybe we blur it and then I'll create less defined ridges. Change the UV scaling here to be something way larger. That way it kind of warps it quite a bit. Maybe now what we're going to do is we're going to add in kind of the blaster that's going to fly past the camera. But yeah, let's look at this real quick. So we have this frame here, we'll probably want. So let's use a frame hold on this frame. And then let's copy paste this frame hold to here. Let's go forward a little bit, probably to there, and then we'll set that to that keyframe. And then again, another frame hold, and we can set that to that keyframe. So I might even do one more, honestly. So let's just double click that, and then a little bit off the frame here, and then we'll set that to a keyframe. So now we've got all of these keyframes that will be playing back, and the best way to do this is going to be setting this to a frame range of 1 to 1. I'm just going to copy paste this for all of these guys here. And then if we select these in order of the order that we want them to be, I just need to add in a, not frame range, a pen clips. Why could I not remember a pen clip? Okay, so here's the trick. You select all of the frame ranges in the order that you want them, and then you add in the append clip. I don't know why I couldn't remember what the freaking name was, but yeah, so now it's going to play back this as if it's like just a single image sequence of those freeze frames and merge those back on top of it. So I'm going to take all of these guys here and then move them over to the left side of the window here, and we will comp that in on top of our frame. The other thing is right now this is happening on frame 1, so we're going to want to use a time offset. And let's see, where does she shoot the gun? Frame 1021. So let's set this to 1021 and see what that merge looks like. And let's use a merge node beforehand. So let's just go look at this real quick. So we've got time offset of 1021. I'm going to set the keyframe here, and let's set the keyframe here. So yeah, let's go without the motion blur for right now, and then we can worry about that in a moment. But yeah, so this goes in, and then let's see, let's set another keyframe here and then have it go out here. And now we just need to line this up with the rest of our image. So I'm going to use a corner pin because we're going to want this to go past the camera. And let's see, probably line that up a little bit like this. So that way we're going to get the perspective that we want. And I'll use a transform now that we've got the right angle. We just need it to basically just point the right direction. Let's add in a grade node real quick. And we're going to probably make it a little more purple. There it is. And then now we'll take this, we'll add in a glow. And then we'll change the tolerance here again to be something pretty small. The brightness, we'll just half that. And then the saturation, half that as well. And then the size here can be something that's a little bit, I mean, 15 is probably fine. I'm wondering if we do that and then we just merge that back on top of our image here. Let's see, screen. Yeah, screen's fine. Let's use another glow here. All the way, let's make this effect only. And then this glow here, again, effect only. And then we will change the tolerance again to be about half or so. And then the brightness can be something 0.75, 0.75, just similar to what we had done before. Size here again will be something pretty small. And let's use a merge node again. And that's just going to be merged on top with another screen. I think that works. I'm just trying to find a good amount of glow that we're going to do to this thing. And then I'm going to use another blur node here, probably something like 200. And then we can merge that back on top of the blur node. Let's put the blur center probably about here, and then the target about there. And then we'll put the blur length in. Let's see, the blur angle, change this to 90 because we know it's exactly sideways. So now if we go back to our effect that we have here, so this is going to blur all channels, and I need to make sure that it is blurring the alpha channel. So the blur layer is going to be on RGBA. Yeah, there we go. So now it blurs everything. So when we merge that back on top, it's not losing its alpha. Probably going to grade this to be a little more purple as well. I'm probably going to lessen the amount of the blur length by half. Our corner pin that we have here, let's just make it just go off camera because I don't like it going too fast. Like I want it for 4 frames, and we're not currently getting it for 4 frames, so let's take that, and then we'll take our transform node here and just line that up a little bit better with our blaster effect. Let's see, let's turn off that. Let's see, time offset needs to be by 1020, and then our, yeah, boom, and then it starts to move. Then we're having some issues down here with the bottom of the light. Yeah, let's turn that back on. I'm going to make this a lot less. And then here it goes to full blast. So we can actually just copy paste the same blaster effect that we have and then just use it into the other area. That probably is going to be the easiest thing to do. So I'm going to use like a time offset just based off of this corner pin that we have here. And then we can, let's say it goes from 1020 to, I need it to be like 19 frames. Great. And then now we'll use a transform here to flop the shot. And then we can comp that in appropriately. So we will take this guy and merge him back with the rest of the group. So yeah, if we take this now and we merge this and then we say plus, that means we should get both blaster effects that are happening. Yep. And so now with this transform node, I can rotate things slightly and adjust our merge over here. So let's see what that looks like. Let's use an O-flow specifically on this guy. And we'll do, let's go look at this real quick. We're using an O-flow, and then we'll do a frame range, and then we're going to set this to frame 1041. And we'll set that as a keyframe. This can be frame 1040. Let's try 42 on this. And then this one would be 43. And then here we have it even go more off. And then using that O-flow, let's see what that looks like. Also need a merge node, of course, but yeah, we'll merge it, set the keyframe here to that, and then have it go to 0. I think it does go completely off, so we don't have to worry about the exit. This blue light is very unjustified, so let's go adjust our constant here to be a little more purple. I want to, before the directional blur, we need to reformat this as our 2K DCP format that we're using. And then that lines everything back up. But what that will also allow us to see is kind of like this glowing mess that we have everywhere, which is not as good. So we need to clean that up. We're just going to use a merge node and then another roto node here. And this should get us to just select that. And if we set that to pre-molt and we add a blur node in, we can feather the edges of that a little bit better. That might work. And if we go back to our merge node, we shouldn't have any issues. Not at least with the bottom and the top. We have some clipping there. I might want to adjust that. So it's the starting frame clip. So that's the first frame. So we know that we can delete this, for instance, and then have this line up here. That way we're not hitting that edge. I don't mind that it has that glow there, but at least now it's not creating like a hard edge. So now if we go back to our merge node at the bottom here, we're going to see that we don't have that clip anymore. So now we have our new sparks that we can drop into our sequence as well. Thinking even this might do us better to add in a little bit of exposure. I mean, it just was a bit dark before. And then this corner pin is a little wrong, so we'll fix that so that way it does go off camera. Now our sparks that we have, let's see if we can just change this out. So I'm going to add in a dot. And let's see, we downloaded our new spark effect. We'll just drag that in. And we'll change the color space real quick to 709. And yeah. So this is the spark effect, our new spark effect. And this is our old spark effect. We kind of need these to line up, at least on the location, at least, that the sparks are emanating from. Then now, if we go to our gunshot, resort this. I'm going to set some keyframes here, though. So we're going to go ahead and set some keyframes here. So the initial blast is fine. And then I'm going to have it move up. Or is this not our spark effect? Oh, that's our second spark effect. So let's, okay, again, set the keyframe. And then as the camera, or as the gun moves up, that's going to move up as well. Which actually, funny enough, that's also incorrect. And now let's align that up a little bit better. Or do I just want to take this guy and then say plus? Probably just that. The one effect I really want to add is the glow in her eyes. The same thing we did with the Ghostbusters effect. So let's go ahead and add in a new tracker here. I'm gonna add a tracker in. Say transform set to current frame. Just add tracker. Now let's take this guy and we can match move it here in a second. But what I want to do is I want to take a merge node of all of our lighting effects that we're really doing, which is mostly our spark effect that we're doing here, plus our blaster effects that we're doing all the way down here. And I want to take this and merge them together into one kind of like video file, essentially. And if we take this whole thing and we just blur it all, go to our next effect here, just set keyframes, set keyframe. And then our next time we see the blast go off, should be around here. Move it over so it's centered on where the eye is going to be, because I want to have like this effect happen where we're using that section of the image to light everything. Now, if I take this transform node here and we're going to just add this on top of everything. So let's go to the first time we see our keyframes. Let's see, it should be about here. We'll take this transform node, or actually we'll do another transform node, scale him down quite a bit, and we're just going to move this over in front of the eyes. We're just going to scale it a lot down. Okay, great. And then now we use a merge node and another transform, but this transform is going to move him over to here. This is going to be our eyes that we're doing here. We'll use an over, and I'm thinking we'll change this to plus and make this super slight in the eyes. Okay, great. And then now going back up to our very top here, we have our tracker. I'm just going to select that and then just change this to a match move, create. And if we move this all the way to the bottom of our VFX shot, it should move with everything. The only thing is, let's go to our tracker real quick and say transform set to current frame 1023. So that way it's moving with where our current frame is. Now, we don't have to animate the eyes to come in or anything like that because we're using the pre-existing stuff already with inside of our comp here. Pretty good. I'm not going to tweak it at all. We probably could tweak it if we wanted to, just to get a little extra, but I think for right now, I think that's good. So let's change this to like a 1.05 for the scaling of our shot here. And then, let's see, you're shooting and somebody shoots past you, you're going to go, like, you know, like type of thing. So let's set the keyframe here to, let's say, set keyframe. And then the next shot here, we will just move everything slightly. And we'll set the motion blur higher. So we'll go to this frame here. We'll set another keyframe. Well, this needs to be set here to a keyframe, and then we're just going to take our transform here and we'll just scale that like so. And then cache that back, and then I think that's the VFX shot. I mean, we have to reapply grain, but that could take like 2 seconds, so I'm not too concerned about that. Add in a grain real quick just to get that done. I'm not going to copy the exact same amount of grain. I kind of want to have more. I don't know that I like how fast the camera shake happens. Let's see. Let's make it at least 1 frame longer. A little bit of correctiveness also on it, never hurt. But I think this is going to be our finished visual effect shot for today, guys. But thank you guys for joining today, and I will see you guys next time. I gotta get to work. Stay creating, and talk soon. Bye.